happy Friday to everyone out there. I am so excited to be back and doing our Forgotten Coast Real Estate Show interviews. We took a break for pretty much the month of December and into January. The holiday season always gets busy. And then I really wanted to get a hold of different people and really figure out who I wanted to interview. And I'm so excited because I reached out to my friend here, Chef Ian, and said, hey, would you join me? Because I love what he does. And so today I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you taking the time to do this because I know it takes a little time out of your day and we know you're a busy guy. So thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Nicole, and good morning.
Good morning. So I start these interviews always by saying, leading into tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your background? And just, so the people watching can get to know who you are.
Well, I have, ever since I was a junior in high school, I've always cooked and professionally. And so I've been a chef all of my life. It's going on 34 years now. And I've traveled up and down the Eastern Coast and just been able to work in some of the nicest places and just have a wonderful time. It's been a great, great, great career for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So where were you born and raised?
Oh, I was born in Alma, Georgia, but raised in Peachtree City, Georgia, which is about 30 minutes outside of Atlanta.
So you're a Southern boy.
Oh, yeah.
And a junior in high school, where was your first job that you were already in?
My first job was at a Hardee's.
Nice. Well, I will have to admit my first real job was I was a car hop at Sonic. So I'm right there with you.
Awesome.
I wasn't cooking though. They got me out of the kitchen pretty quickly. Oh, that's so cool. That's great. So what brought you to, or how did you land in Port St. Joe?
Well, it's kind of funny. I was a bit heartbroken. I was working as pastry chef on Hilton Head Island at the time. And an old friend of mine called me that I worked with in Asheville, North Carolina, after I graduated culinary school. And she said, well, I've bought this restaurant and I need help getting it open for dinner and really need you to come. And I was like, well, I was in the mood for an adventure. And I thought, well, come and check it out and see. Yeah. And this was in Apalachicola. So I came and looked at the restaurant, met some of the people and was like, wow, this is wonderful. I love this. And so I went back and turned my life over and moved to Apalachicola on a whim.
Wow.
I moved there with the intention of never, ever having to date or see another woman again in my life and wanted to become a hermit. So I met my wife about a year and a half, 2 years later.
I love that. I'm sorry that there was someone out there that gave you that kind of taste in your mouth, but I'm glad there's someone that turned that around for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
The best thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she lived in Port St. Joe. So after we got married, I, of course, moved to Port St. Joe.
Yeah. And I think I saw in your bio that you worked at Sunset Coastal Grill. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. I was there about 5.5, 6 years.
Okay. I love Sunset. That was such a fun, it was I don't know, there was something about that energy, that spirit there that I really loved. I really love that space. So, I mean, it's a gorgeous restaurant again, not Sunset Coastal Grill, but my goodness, it's amazing. So when did you start this adventure that you are in now?
Well, I guess almost 6 years ago, I was getting just frustrated with my job and kept coming home every night, just kind of discontent and grumpy. And my wife was like, why don't you think about being a private chef? You'll work for yourself. You'll be able to do whatever you want. And I was the biggest naysayer for, I guess I got about 2 years. I was like, no, there's not enough money into that. We just had a child. And I was always coming up with excuses. And then one night I had a horrible night at work and I came home and she was like, private chef. And I'm like, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'm ready to go all in.
Oh my gosh.
Walked into work the very next day and submitted my notice and worked out my exit strategy with the owner, Patty Blaylock. And then started on my own.
I
well,
love that.
advertising, and I guess about 2 hours after I ran my first ad, I got a hit and booked my first client. And after that, it's just been a roller coaster ride.
I love that. Well, and I mean, there's some things that have happened for me personally, and I think that sometimes God just says, like he gives us this little idea, and it's like, okay, let's like act upon it, and we don't, and we don't, and we don't, and we don't, and so He's gonna be like, well, let me just push you that way. So I
I
love
was about
it.
to say.
Yeah. I totally get that. There were so many things that happened for me. Like my husband, when we moved here, he was like, listen, you've done a lot of things in your life. Like I've been in insurance, I've been in banking, I've done it all. And he was like, what did you love? And I said, man, I loved real estate. So, but there was just that push. You just needed that push just to say, this is what I'm going to do. So I love that. I love your
Yes, it's scary.
company. I think is fantastic. I love the idea and the precedence around it. So your wife is the brain behind that?
Oh, she is the inspiration, the drive, and everything behind that.
Good.
I'm just the talent.
Well, I was about ready to say, like, I had told you, I always like to ask, like, if there was anyone that was inspirational or maybe a book that you read or something that really like sparked the idea like that you can do this. Because I think so many people out there have these great ideas, but they don't believe in themselves. So would that be your wife for you?
Definitely.
And what's her name?
Her name is Carolyn Williams.
Okay. You got to give her a shout out on this.
Oh, yeah. She'll get a kick out of that.
Well, I'm so glad that she did that. So I have a couple other questions that between myself and some other people, we kind of were like, I wonder about this. Like you're a private chef, so you go into other people's homes or different locations, often, and whether it's a rental home or whatever. But there's two questions that kept coming up. What is your favorite dish to make? And then on the flip side, what is maybe your least favorite that you actually like to or don't like to make?
Oh, let's see. My new favorite dish to make is something I just recently rediscovered when I made it for my family, and it was homemade 4-cheese ravioli with a vodka tomato cream sauce.
Oh.
My all-time least favorite dish to make, I have to say, is homemade from scratch gnocchi. And that's a request my brother gives me every time I'm cooking. He's like, "Oh, you're making gnocchi, good." And I'm like,
So
"No."
for those of us who don't know what gnocchi is.
No, it's a small potato dumpling that you hand roll out and then press on the back of a fork to make ridges so it collects the sauce.
Is it Asian?
No, it's Italian.
It's Italian. Nice. Gnocchi, huh? And you don't like people, is it just the process of it that you don't like? Yeah.
It's actually, I just don't do it well.
Oh.
And that drives me crazy. And I've been practicing at home a dozen times just to try and get it right. And it's one of those things that eludes me.
I'm sure that it likely tastes perfect and probably looks pretty dang spot on. So we
one's
are
harder
our
on
own
myself than myself. But
yeah.
my two little girls are my best critics, and they're like, "No, Dad, the package is still better."
I love that. How old are your girls?
Let's see, they are 13 and 16.
Oh yeah, they're at a great age to be very honest. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So, who is your typical client? Like, what is your, generally speaking, when you get phone calls or whatever that looks like, who is your typical client that you typically serve?
Well, I used to answer that question as a vacationer coming to this area would be my typical client. But now I'm starting to see a lot more locals, a lot more people with the special events booking me, and yes, still a lot more vacationers coming as well. So it's a nice mix.
That
It
is
seems
good.
that in the off season, I get more of a local clientele, and then during season, I get more of the vacationers.
Yeah. Well, as we're heading into Valentine's Day, is that something that you typically see maybe some more of the local clientele, like, hey, come make dinner for my husband and I or my wife and I or something?
Oh, actually, I'm booked on Valentine's Day by some visiting snowbirds that hire me every year on Valentine's Day.
Oh, I love that
It
though.
was really nice. Last year it was one of their 70th birthdays, and then this year it's a 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. I love that. That's so awesome. Oh, and I love that the fact that our snowbirds, I feel like when they come here, they just mesh in with our community and they become somewhat local for the time that they're here. Like they have
I
friends
agree.
here and you'll see them come into the restaurants and things and they haven't been here. And the restaurant owners or workers are like, oh my gosh, you're back. And you're like, everyone's like excited to see them. So I love that you get to experience that as well as someone that comes every year and knows that this is what we want. So that is really cool. Well,
Yeah.
I had asked you before too. So I know you do a lot of, are most of your meals that you prepare, like maybe, do they choose like 4-course, 5-course, or is it based off of a budget?
Yeah, my best selling item is the four course seafood dinner. Here lately, the surf and turf has been stealing the show, and so I've been playing around a lot with that. That's what we
Nice.
did in last night's dinner, and it's always a challenge because it's like making 2 entrees instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, they really are going for the 4 course dinner and just want the freshest fish available, which I'm really happy that I can deliver to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, luckily you're near the coast, so that
Yeah,
works out
that's
real
part of the
well for
fun. When I
you.
arrive, I lay everything out in front so they can see exactly what I have, and they're like, "Oh my God, that fish is just beautiful." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, it's
that's
nice."
cool.
But also, we're able to get the fresh local Florida beef too, and so I'm really
Mhm.
proud to serve that as well.
That's good. That's good. And so now I know a little bit about it is that you come into the location, you bring your own pots and pans, you bring everything and am
Mhm.
I correct? You prepare it, you plate it, you clean it up. Like it's a hands-off experience for those who hire you, correct?
As they call in the rental business, a turnkey operation.
I
Once I
love
come
that.
into the door, I just take over, and I bring my own fine china, my own silverware, everything. I do elaborate place settings, everything that I consider what I would consider a chef experience at a
Mhm.
restaurant should be. I do in their home.
I love that. That's so good. I'm going to do this one day, I promise. And I know we've talked about it because I asked you if you did vegan options. I'm
Hmm.
not 100% vegan, but there's people in my circle that are. And so I thought of doing something for my closest circle. And I thought, I wonder if you had that. So, and you told me that you did,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah,
so,
vegan, vegetarian, gluten free, any kind of food sensitivities a person may have, I'll be glad to cater for.
yeah, I think that's great. So last question, well, actually there's two. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way is through my email at ian@yourtableyourchef.com, but
Okay.
also to either call or text me. My phone
Okay.
number is 850-329-0544.
Okay. And I'm going to put that information in the notes below. So if anyone listening has thought about like, this is something I'd really like to do for maybe you and your closest friends, or maybe you and your spouse or whatever, reach out to him, get that on his schedule. Last question of the day. If you were to draw up the most perfect day in our area, what does that look like for you?
I would have a repeat of Father's Day 2 years ago where I was gifted a full-size Yeti cooler. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys got this. And then I opened it and it was full of beer and sandwiches. And we went to the beach and ate sandwiches and drank beer. That was like the perfect day.
That is super cool. So just a full day of rest, relaxation on the beach with the people you love.
And a total surprise.
Sandwiches, easy peasy. I like that. That's
They were,
great.
they were like, you're going to have to carry the cooler. And I was like, no problem.
Erg. Those Yeti coolers are heavy on their by themselves, let alone then put ice and stuff in it. They're really quite heavy.
It's a good
Uh,
workout.
yeah, it is. Well, I just want to say so much how much I appreciate you taking the time and talking to us today, sharing your story about how you got here, your inspiration, and the business that you have. And I'm so glad that you decided to listen to your wife and take that leap, because you really do have a wonderful product out there. And
Well, thank you.
I think
Thank you
we
so much,
all can
Nicole.
agree that it is really cool, and we appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We all have a wonderful day. Again, if you have any questions, just toss them in here. Reach out to Ian. Get your date on his calendar. We'll talk soon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye bye.